We are here to celebrate April as the Poetry Month. Now, why April or any month has been designated as a Poetry Month, I'm not sure why. Because no other art forms such as music, painting, photography have special months. Nevertheless, to go along with this celebration, we have assembled a group of St. John's residents who will read samples of either their own poetry or poems that they love to present to us. And in this regard, our first presenter is Barbara Beyer. I hope you enjoy this program.
So the first poem that I'm going to read is one that I wrote about 25 years ago. I was about 50 in transition in my life, and this is it. The title kept changing. Sometimes it was To Live the Lie, sometimes it was Skin, whatever. Slipping into my skin feels like a scratchy wool sweater in a summer's heat, sticking and prickling my breast as threads ooze, with the glue of sweat covering my body with insect stings. I want to pull it off, throw it away, feel cool breezes, splash waves in my face, sprinkle sand on my feet, fingers along my arms that stretch wide to embrace the bits of dust on a hazy day. Yarn shrunk by the heat, plastered flat and taut, woven into a mass of stray fibers, steel filaments, stubborn twine, tight around my neck, smothering my breath, smelling old, worn, and empty. Veins throb as I search for distance from the ache of longing for ease and comfort. Years of neglect leave stitches of violet, pink, and blue unraveled, faded to a musty brown blur of color, speckled with lumps and fuzz. Where is the silky charm dream of beauty and desire, elegance and joy that once felt stylish, with smooth buttons, intricate lace, and silvery ribbons? The next one also comes back from the times that we were, it would also be in about 20 years ago. This is by someone who I think is a wonderful poet. The title is Comes the Dawn, and Veronica Schofstel wrote it. After a while, you learn the subtle difference between holding a hand and chaining a soul. And you learn that love doesn't mean leaning, and company doesn't mean security. And you begin to understand that kisses aren't contracts, and presents aren't promises. And you begin to accept your defeats with your head held high and your eyes open, with the grace of a woman, not the grief of a child. You learn to build your roads on today because tomorrow's ground is too uncertain for plans, and futures have a way of falling down in mid-flight. After a while, you learn that even sunshine burns if you get too much. So you plant your own garden and decorate your own soul instead of waiting for someone to bring you flowers. And you learn that you really can endure, that you really are strong, and you really do have worth. And you learn and learn and you learn. With every goodbye, you learn. Okay, this was a little poem that I wrote about elephants. I happen to love elephants. Prancing near its mother, a newly born elephant moves in and out around her legs, rolls in the mud, sprints towards the puddled water, simmering in the meadow. He scratches himself against the bark of sycamore trees, sprays flecks of spittle into the air, wraps his trunk around his mother's tail, and basks in the warmth of skin against skin.
My name is Bernice Popelka, and I have been writing poetry since 1966. About 3/4 of my life has been spent observing nature and being outdoors. So, of course, many of my poems relate to the outdoors. last spring, we had I had a lovely walk in the Kettle Moraine with Sherry Briscoe, and it was so enjoyable that I wrote about it. This is the poem. The Enchanted Forest. Dark clouds dripped, but we would not be denied. We climbed the hills and entered the forest primeval. Oaks and hickories, large ones standing or falling, enveloped the trail. A square hole chiseled into an old oak told of piloted woodpeckers. The clouds moved away, and the sun shone down through the leaves. In the quiet, rose-breasted grosbeaks began to warble melodious songs. A distant ovenbird called, and a wood pewee answered. The forest echoed with the symphony of countless bird songs. Newly hatched ebony jewelweed damselflies flitted across our path. Their jet black wings and iridescent blue bodies hovered on every bush. Lichens that are white, some green, some black, grew on logs and rocks. Majestic royal ferns and dainty maidenhair ferns added complex patterns. A forest stream rushing over rocks splashed music into our ears. We found a wooden bridge that harbored green moss in every crack. We stood over the stream and meditated, and our souls soaked in the artistry before us. Accountable to friends and responsibilities, we cherished these few precious moments, then turned and began our 2-mile trek back. A scarlet tanager in the canopy serenaded as we said goodbye to paradise. I would like to dedicate this ode to Eliot for creating this wonderful opportunity to share poetry. I wrote this in September of 1977. There are those among us who, like the sun, spread light and life, vigor and warmth, piercing our darkness with generosity, making the world seem wonderful.
Hello, I'm Juanita Mast, and I chose a poem to share with you by Naomi Shihab Nye, and I think you might be interested in a bit of information about her before I read her poem. Nye's experience of both cultural difference and different cultures has influenced much of her work. Known for poetry that lends a fresh perspective to ordinary events, people, and objects, Nye has said that, for her, the primary source of poetry has always been local life, random characters met on the streets, our own ancestry sifting down to us through a small, essential daily task. I was introduced to this poem as a subject for a Lectio Divina and liked it, so I'm sharing it with you. The poem is Telling the Story. In America, what's real juggles with what isn't. A woman I know props fabulous tulips in her flower bed in snow. Streets aren't gold, but they could be. Once a traveler mailed letters in a trash can for a week. He thought they were going somewhere. In America, everything is going somewhere. I answered a telephone on a California street. Hello? It was possible. A voice said, "There's no scientific proof that God is a man." Thank you. I was standing there. Was this meant for me? It was not exactly the question I had been asking, but it kept me busy a while telling the story. Some start out with a big story that shrinks. Some stories accumulate power, like a sky gathering clouds, quietly, till the story rains around you. Some get tired of the same story and quit speaking. A farmer leaning into his row of potatoes, a mother walking the same child to school. What will we learn today? There should be an answer, and it should change.
Well, I'm John Schmidt. I live in the South Tower, 3B. I have had a varied history of liking or disliking poetry. I chose this poem because I like the sound of it. It's very creative. It uses many different poetic devices, and I like it. I also chose it because it shows how interpretation really could change a poem. Two different people would read it different ways. And I dedicate this reading of the poem to my brother and my father. My brother, who probably introduced me to this poem, and my father, who, if he read it, he wouldn't have liked it. By Lewis Carroll. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wave. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome raths outgrave. Beware the jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the jubjub bird, and shun the frumious bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand. Long time the mamsome foam he sought. So rested he by the tumtum tree, and stood a while in thought. And as in uffish thought he stood, the jabberwock, with eyes of flame, came whiffling through the tulgey wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through. The vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galumphing back. And hast thou slain the jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy, O frabtious day, callooh callay, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wave. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome raths outgrave.
Hi, everybody. I'm Virginia Chappell, and I want to read for you a poem I wrote for my kid sister, Patricia, on her 64th birthday. To Patricia. Our house had shivered with anticipation all day. A blizzard was coming. No school tomorrow. Big flakes were amassing under the streetlights. Off to bed, girls. We went, shivering and giggling over our plans. I had a feeling there was something else, but I kept quiet. A big clatter woke me up. Dee had gone out to shovel snow. I listened hard. Now he was back. Hushed voices drifted upstairs. Again, our big front door opened and closed. Stiff from the effort of listening, I finally heard the car engine cough, sputter, go. The tires whined against the snow in the long driveway. Then silence. I decided I would wait up. After all, I was the oldest, nearly 12. A flashlight and a magazine were waiting under my pillow. I must have read every word in that issue of American Girl, especially the explanation of how scoring works in football. I still remember. At breakfast, we got the big news. Another girl. Hooray! Now we were 4. A few days later, you finally came home to meet your big sisters. The unwinding of your swaddling blankets seemed endless. But finally, there you were, very pink, with a few barely visible blonde hairs. You seemed surprised. Did we scare you, jumping around like that, trying to find your toes, count your fingers, catch your eye? It was love at first sight.
Hello, my name is Pat Busalaki, and I have chosen a poem called To My Dear and Loving Husband. It was written by Anne Bradstreet, who lived in colonial America from 1612 to 1672. If ever two were one, then surely we. If ever man were loved by wife, then thee. If ever wife was happy in a man, compare with me, ye women, if you can. I prize thy love more than whole mines of gold, or all the riches that the east doth hold. My love is such that rivers cannot quench, nor aught but love give recompense. Thy love is such I can no way repay. The heavens reward thee manifold, I pray. Then while we live in love let's so persever, that when we live no more, we may live ever.
Hello, I'm Chuck Harper. I'm part of the poetry workshop, and on March 17th, Elliot Lipschitz gave us a challenge to write a villanelle poem, which is from the 17th century as a format. Being March 17th, I thought I would write something relative to St. Patrick's. Now, March 17th happens to be my wife's birthday. So over the years, we've always had the combination of celebrating St. Patrick's Day and her birthday. St. Patrick's Day we celebrated at our open house at our office, where our clients and friends might gather for a little punch and celebration of that day. So I wrote this villanelle in the format and used St. Patrick's and Pat's birthday, and I wrote this for her to celebrate this year's birthday. It's called St. Pat. March 17th, the world turns green. Island mythical snakes and reptile things. St. Patrick swept Erin clean. Leprechauns with childish gleams from garden dance as church bell ring, chasing after pots of gold their dream. If your birthday falls in this scene, it may not bring on that day, or may not seem to get the proper ovation mid the green celebration. So happy birthday from my heart, with pots of love each year that comes to pass. You're not an Irish lass, but you're a mate first class, with 4-leak love, luck, and love from your hubby Chuck.
Well, my name is Marilyn Gordon Ross, and I have chosen to read Introduction to Poetry by Billy Collins, U.S. Poet Laureate 2001 to 2003. Because his poetry presents a wry look on life, it captured me. He once observed at a commencement address that poetry is everywhere, it just needs editing. And he edits with a light touch, never overanalyzing. He appreciates a poem rather than forcing information out of it. He sometimes is amusing, he sometimes cuts to the bone, yet he's always without pretension, and that's why I chose this poem. Introduction to Poetry by Billy Collins. I ask them to take a poem and hold it up to the light like a color slide, or press an ear against its hive. I say drop a mouse into a poem and watch him probe his way out, or walk inside the poem's room and feel the walls for a light switch. I want them to water ski across the surface of a poem, waving to the author's name on the shore. But all they want to do is tie the poem to a chair with rope and torture a confession out of it. They begin beating it with a hose to find out what it really means.
I'm art poetry. I have 3 poems, 2 by Shel Silverstein, 1 from Spoon River Anthology by Edgar Lee Master. The old folks inside. Inside you, boy, there's an old man sleeping, waiting for his chance. Inside you, girl, is an old lady waiting to show you a slower dance. So keep on running, keep on playing, keep on jumping, till the day the old folks inside wake up and come out to play. The little boy and the old man, Shel Silverstein. Said the little boy, sometimes I drop my spoon. Said the little old man, I do that too. The little boy whispered, I wet my pants. The old man laughed. I do that too, said the little boy. I often cry, said the old man nodded. So do I. The little boy said the worst stuff. It seems the old folks don't pay attention to me. And he felt the warmth of a little old hand. I know what you mean, said the little old man. William and Emily from Edgar Lee Master, Spoon River Anthology. There is something about death, like love itself. If with someone you have known passion and the glow of youthful love, you also, after many years of life together, feel the sinking of the fire and thus fade away together. Gradually, faintly, delicately, as if in each other's arms, passing from the familiar room. That is a power of unison between souls, like love itself.
My name is Ann Brooks. As many of you know, Art Brooks and I grew up in a little town in northern Vermont. My father was a country lawyer and my mother was an English teacher. They raised 4 children and became empty nesters in 1970. And that was the year that my mother was asked to run for the state legislature to represent our town. She served in the legislature for 10 years and concurrently became the president of the Board of Trustees of the University of Vermont. For years, my mother and I would write our Christmas letters in verse, short and sweet. They were our answer to the interminable Christmas letters that we all receive. In 1984, my mother wrote a poem, probably more appropriately called Doggerel Verse. It was about the woes of aging, a subject to which we can all relate. And fortunately, it follows this poetic advice. If you insist on doggerel verse, show mercy then and keep it terse. And so I will. And her poem is entitled Jingle All the Way. A little stiff in the morning, early to bed at night, a little more impatient when things don't go just right, a little more love than passion, a little less climbing hills, a lot of blooming diet and ever-present pills.
can't bend, can't cope with jar tops, can't shovel, jog, or sing, can't find our cussed treasures, can't tell what days will bring. Each claims the other mumbles, can't hear things worth a damn, can't see without our glasses, or remember Steve or Sam. Still, life is much less frantic. Our kids treat us like friends. We're getting less pedantic, less swept along by trends. Old memories brighten days now, with aggravations few. Our friends increase in value. Old stories shine like new. So give 1 cheer, not 3, please, for our advancing age. We're here, we're sane, together, and tell ourselves we're sage. Especially at Christmas, we're grateful that we knew good friends and garnered new ones. Peace and love to you, by Louise Swainbank, 1984.
Hi, I'm Dick Spalding, rather new to poetry, but I have made a selection for my presentation from an American humorist, poet and essayist, Ogden Nash, who is probably more known for his short, quick snips. For instance, his most famous one, "Candy is sweeter, but liquor is quicker." Well, knowing our situation, I have come across one called I'll Get It Tomorrow, and it has to do with the problem that every one of us is facing right now, and that is unable to go to the barber shop or the beauty shop. Barber, barber, come and get me. Hairy torrents irk and fret me. Hair and hair again appears and climbs like ivy round my ears. Hair across my collar gambols, down my neck it wayward ambles. Ever down it tickles. Yes, where it trips, it tickles. Barber dear, I wish I knew why I do not visit you. Why I grudge the minutes 10 in your smiling den. Why I choose to choke on hair rather than to mount your chair. Men no busier than I, weekly to your office hie. Men no busier than myself confront the armory on your shelf. Men no wealthier than me gladly meet your modest fee. For a fraction of $1, they keep the jungle off their collar. I alone am shy and flustered, solitary, cowardly custard. Shaggy as a prize Angora, overrun with the creeping flora. Barber, barber, you're in luck. The bell has rung, the hour has struck. Sloth strong, the hair is strong. I cannot stand it any long. Barber, barber, here I come. Shake up that odorous bay rum. Bring on your shears, your size, your snippers. Bring on your crisp electric dryers. Employ a dozen extra sweepers. I warn you, a bumper crop awaits to overwhelm your shop. Barber, barber, be verbose, but anything but clip me close. Leave me razored, leave me scissored, leave me hairless as a lizard. Barber, barber, single and scald. Barber, can't you make me bald? I will be the happiest of men and never think of you again. Ogden Nash.
I'm Jean Durnford, and I wrote these poems recently. The first one is Coronavirus. March 16th, Bonita is not well. We must get tested, I demand. Fever, tired, and cold symptoms. Are we going to die? How sick will she get? How sick will I get? Daughter Doris to the rescue. Take these herbs every day. They will help to get well. Day 3, and I am sick too. Digestive issues are my plight. Mild fever, not too bad. Day 5, Juanita still sick. Fever, tired, and cold symptoms. Sleeps a lot, eats less. Day 7, I am better. Food slightly appealing, lost a little weight. Day 8, results are in. Juanita has COVID-19. I did not at the time. 2 weeks now, getting old. Still stay in, says Mary M. Juanita's better, but not well. 3 weeks separate, bed and bathrooms, washing, wiping, cleaning. Finally released to go nowhere. Stay home were the new orders, but glad to have it over. This is a poem on aging. I wrote it about a month or so ago. I am wearing down and I am sad. I love the exuberance of youth. Young adults are bright and capable. It's their turn to take charge. I am growing old and I am sad. Everyone I know is retired. Some of their children are retired. Their grandchildren are taking over. I am dying and I am sad. We talk too much about body parts. There's a new ache every day. I spend too much time with doctors. I am wearing down. I am growing old. I am dying. I am sad. I wrote this one for my anniversary with Juanita. In 2005, we tied the knot. It was a beautiful ceremony with wonderful friends and family. We were so in love. In 2008, we officially married. Another happy day in a beautiful woodland setting. We were now legal. In 2010, we moved to Wisconsin. We lived in a beautiful house with a nice lake view. We were naive homeowners. In 2013, we moved to St. John's. We had a spacious apartment with good views of sunsets. We are cared for. In 2017, we moved to 9B. We have spaciousness and awesome views of lake and city. Couldn't be better. In 2020, we are still here, together for life, loving and supporting each other, living with aging. 18 years since we first met, many changes in life and place and health, still in love.
I'm Michael Barton. I normally focus on music, but when I studied Debussy, it became clear that Debussy is less associated with the Impressionist painters and more with the poets, the symbolist poets in France, who focused on imagery, but imagery where they were depicting not the thing, but the effect that it produces. So they produced beautiful, intense love poetry that contained both images and references to music that became a natural for Debussy. The first is the most familiar. Debussy put Clair de Lune to song, as well as a piano prelude, which we're more familiar with. This is Clair de Lune by Paul Verlaine. Your soul is a chosen landscape, charmed by maskers and revelers, playing the lute and dancing and almost sad beneath their fanciful disguises. Even while singing in a minor key of victorious love and fortunate living, they do not seem to believe in their happiness, and their song mingles with the moonlight, the calm moonlight, sad and beautiful, which sets the birds in the trees dreaming, and makes the fountains sob with ecstasy, the tall, slender fountains among the marble statues. Now, the second one is a poem based upon a Malaysian poetry form. 4 stanzas where the second and fourth lines are repeated in the next stanza as the first and third lines. This is Evening Harmony by Charles Baudelaire. And Debussy did a piano prelude called The Sounds and Perfumes Circle in the Evening Air, which is ambiguous enough to set to music, but it comes out that way. Here comes the moments when, quivering on its stem, each flower gives off fragrance like a censer. The sounds and perfumes circle in the evening air, a melancholy waltz, a languid dizziness. Each flower gives off fragrance like a censer. The violin trembles like a heart in distress, a melancholy waltz, a languid dizziness. The sky is sad and beautiful like a vast altar. The violin trembles like a heart in distress, a tender heart which hates the huge dark void. The sky is sad and beautiful like a vast altar. The sun has drowned in its own congealing blood. A tender heart which hates the huge dark void gathers up every relic of the harmonious past. The sun has drowned in its own congealing blood. The memory of you shines in me like a monstrance. This last is fairly obvious as a piece to set to music because Debussy was a master at picturing water, and this is The Fountain by Charles Baudelaire. Your pretty eyes are tired, poor darling. Keep them closed. Stay a long time still in that nonchalant pose in which pleasure comes upon you. Out in the courtyard, the chattering fountain, never silent night or day, is gently prolonging the ecstasy into which love has plunged me this evening. The water sheaf which waves to and fro its 1,000 flowers, and through which the moon shines its pallid rays, falls like a shower of large teardrops. Even so, your soul set ablaze by the burning flash of pleasure leaps up, rapid and bold, toward the vast enchanting skies, and then it spells, dying in a wave of sad languor, down an invisible slope into the depths of my heart. O beloved, whom night makes so beautiful, as I lean over your breast, I find it sweet to listen to the eternal lament that sobs in the fountain basins. O moon, sounds of water, blessed night. O trees trembling all around, your pure melancholy is the mirror of my love.
Hi, I'm Sandy Duffy. I've been a resident here for about 4 years. The first poem I'm going to read is Juno Park on a Summer Night, and it was written by a poet who lives on the east side. The lake is still, boats safe in their slips, walkers pass by, motorcycles roar from below the bluff, and sirens wail from afar. But we are city dwellers, accustomed to noise. Knowing how to find our way to quiet, we come tonight for poetry, bringing blankets and chairs, small dogs, wine and umbrellas, to hear words about our world, loving and troubled as it might be. Voices bring us close to a Polish grandmother, set us alongside ironworkers perched close to the sky, and a baby held in the crook of his grandpa's arm. We clap for the resiliency of those who write of what lies beyond our knowing, nod in sympathy when a poem strikes close, laugh when taken by surprise, and clap, but lightly. For this is a quiet night, a night for listening, as each poet's words are gathered, then carried home before being erased by the rain. Well, and you're in for a treat because I have a few more poems to read, but they're all short, and I think they're all rather interesting. The first, and this is another place poem. I spent a few winters at Mexico Beach on Florida's Panhandle. In 2018, Hurricane Michael blew through and destroyed this small town. These are my impressions of Mexico Beach from those winters before Michael. The Forgotten Coast. No tourist traps or traffic lights, no high-rise hotels, no Taco Bells, just fishing boats, sea kayaking, quiet neighborhoods, small eateries, sugar sand, sea oats, Florida pines. A winter traffic snarling award-winning gumbo cook-off, local art for sale along the roadside, signs all around, beware the black bears. I wrote this about my great-granddaughter when she was 18 months old. It's titled, Then She. She's a serious girl with a furrowed brow, a little Buddha observing all, slow to warm up to folks, but when she does, it's with heart-stopping smiles and lift-me-up arms. We snuggle, we play. She has me take off my shoes and socks. Then she kisses my toes. I was introduced to poet Ron Padgett's work at a Woodland Pattern Gala last year. This haiku of his appeared on the program. First, calm down. Next, stay that way for the rest of your life. Thank you for letting me share these poems with you.
Looks so simple.
It is
So
very
many
simple.
People are terrified of it.
I don't know. What's a new one?
No, it's a real old one.
This is the camera.
Oh yeah, there it is.
You can just look at
Oh,
me.
I didn't know that. That's a very tiny camera.
I know.
Okay, I'm ready anytime.
All right, go ahead.
Is my hair goofy?
Your hair is lovely.
Okay.
Barber, can't you make me bald?
I don't know.
Well, there you go.
Maybe it fell from heaven.
There you go.
It shouldn't take 5 minutes.
Perfect.
Okay, you don't have a stopwatch.
In this,
We can start over.
Shut the front door.
How did you do that? Easy. Instinct.
Get out of my office.
Set.